Alright, here's Mark. So this is before any feedback, and if you recall from the lesson, one of the first things we really talked about was reaching in or reaching across. That was the most obvious above water issue. You can see, especially when you're turning to breathe, your left hand goes in front of your head or even to the other side. So that causes a streamline issue. It's also not a very effective starting position for the hand. So we talked a lot about reaching directly in front of your shoulders with both arms, whether or not you're breathing. We also talked about feeling like your arm is very wide when you do turn to breathe, so that it overcompensates a little bit. And you did make progress on that. You'll see that through the video. Extension is good, could be better. So by extension, I mean how well you reach forward, reaching as far forward in the pool as possible. So it's not just straightening out your arm, it's reaching forward. Some of that involves really stretching out the lat and shrugging the shoulder forward, or pushing the shoulder forward. That's a separate issue than rolling the shoulder internally, which is the start of the catch. Virtually everybody I coach has room for improvement on the extension. It's something that every swimmer, regardless of their ability level, needs to continue to think about. Long story short, every time you reach forward, really stretch out, roll into it slightly. That enables you to have more water to pull each stroke, which long term will make you a faster swimmer, as well as more streamlined. You have a common runner kick where you've got your feet are dorsiflex, so you're not getting a bunch of push from the kick. We looked at your kick separately, and you are able to kick well when you're swimming, and we talked about this. When you're swimming, your kick is just sort of there, your legs are straight. So you're not, when you're swimming, you're not getting a bunch of propulsion out of your legs. So doing some kick training will be helpful. Your head position is good when you're swimming. When you turn to breathe, your head does come up slightly. That's lower on the importance, because it's not terribly affecting your body position. If your legs were sinking dramatically, then it would be an issue. Over time, you want to smooth that out as well as possible, where when you breathe, you barely lift your head out of the water. It's one of those things. I know you've been swimming a year and a half, and you get more and more comfortable keeping your head low, your mouth almost in the water when you breathe. Here you can see the amount of crossing in or crossing over. We talked about looking forward a bit, so you can see where your hands are. If you see your hands in front of your head, they're too close in or too close to the center line. Again, hands reach in front of the shoulder, the corresponding shoulder. Here, get a look at what was going on with your catch. And with both arms, you're essentially doing a straight arm style of swimming. Straight arm is the second best way to swim, the weakest way being that elbow slip or elbow leading the stroke back. So your goal with the catch is to get any more amount of high elbow, meaning the hand and forearm go vertical in the water as early as possible in the stroke. That way when you're pulling the water or pushing the water, you're not pushing it down, you're pulling it back, meaning you're pulling your body forward. Another thing to think about sometimes is the finish of the stroke or the final push. Try to keep your hand flat to the back wall and feel like you're pushing forward all the way through the stroke. Especially when fatigue sets in, that's one of the first things to go with most people. And so if you work on it in training as a drill or as a focus point, you'll improve your ability to hold that for longer and longer periods, as well as improve your strength of that motion. Your breathing pattern is comfortable. You're exhaling under the water. That's good. Your bilateral breathing, that's perfectly fine. In competitions, I'm a fan of one side breathing. It does create a little bit of a hitch in the stroke, but when you're going at a harder effort level, I think it's important to maximize your oxygen uptake, especially for anything over 200 yards. All right, and here, getting a view of the start position as well as the path of your pull through the water. So you're pulling straight back. That's good, more or less.
So this is working on reaching in front of your shoulders on each side as opposed to crossing in. We talked about looking up a little bit to see where those hands are going, and then on your breathing stroke to feel like it's going very wide. So you're doing a good job with the right arm when you breathe. You're doing a good job with the left arm when you're not breathing. It's still going inward when you turn to breathe. But that's going to be a continuous sort of thing. So when you see this, we'll have you do it one more time. Let's see if you can work on that left arm hand as you turn to breathe. But this improves your streamline. Your hips won't sway side to side as much, and it really improves the power of your stroke because you use more back muscle. Very good. So we're talking about how it felt like more effort for you. So when you make some of these changes, you wind up having more resistance on the stroke or more water to pull, which is a good thing from a long-term swimming development standpoint. Very good. You can keep going. As your back gets stronger and you get more adapted to the new style of swimming, your speed upticks. Because like you said before, you hit a sort of wall in your improvement. Now you're doing some changes that'll help you break through that ceiling or wall. Very good. We're doing a little bit of one arm, working on the roll. Very good. So when you're watching from this angle, if you see that hand and forearm sort of disappear, that means it's gone vertical. And the goal with the high elbow catch or early vertical forearm is that early in the stroke. That was really good. Are you breathing in water? That's all right. Yeah, but it's the form. It's like just the form drill. Like the first time you ever did high knees running drill, or butt kicks, right? Very good. And so working on this form, as awkward as it may feel, is going to be very helpful. Over time, your pulling power is going to improve, and very good. And you'll be moving more quickly. So the issue that's going on here is that you have very inflexible ankles, and so the kick is not translating through your foot. So I can. All right, so working on right arm, high elbow. Very good. 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 All right, so you are able to do the catch. That is very important. Because a lot of times folks have trouble with this particular spot. You're plantar flexing your feet, so you're getting more propulsion there, just as long as you don't cramp up. Yeah, excellent. So this one is thinking about the push or finish of the stroke. So we talked about the extension, talked about high elbow, but I want you to be aware of what's going on when you are finishing the stroke. Good.
All right, here was one arm drill, using the kickboard to hold the other arm out, and really focusing on the high elbow catch. And you are able to get a good bit of that position. So it's an internal shoulder shrug after the extension. Hand and forearm go vertical in the water, and you see a pronounced difference in the angle of your forearm and hand versus your upper arm. If you imagine directional arrows coming off your hand and forearm, when you're doing this position, those arrows are pointed backwards, meaning your body is being pulled forward. If you do straight arm, it's not till you get to a third of the way through the stroke where you're really pushing water backwards. And you're able to do this correctly with both arms, so that's great. So a lot of this one arm drill, I know it can be frustrating as far as doing the drill and getting used to the motion, but it's definitely going to be very helpful. You could use fins when you're doing this to maintain some momentum. You could also use a pull buoy. But drills are not about speed. Drills are about technique, improving technique, ingraining muscle patterns, things like that. So very good. The other drill I mentioned, but I didn't have my paddles with me, was fist with paddle. That's where you use two hand paddles, small to medium size, hold them in fists so they're covering your forearms, and you really think about trying to get this high elbow catch positioning.
So just looking at the kick, that actually looks pretty good. You got good flexion at the knee, and your feet are plantar flexed. So, all right.